Right, people, Doogie is back for more ranking. Oh, yes. Oh, we be ranking. Just to say, early doors, Doogie's got a YouTube channel. It's amazing. If you like to know more about footballers and football teams, then that is the place to go. There is a link in the description. Go and subscribe to our boy. We support our people here. Doogie is one of our people, okay? So do as you're told, please. Thank you very much, whenever it suits you. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the most important thing in football. Scoring goals, Doogie. Mm-hmm. And we're going to rank every Premier League attack. So these are the tiers. We've got elite, one away, solid, weak, firing blanks. Okay. Let's kick off with, we're going to respect the alphabet once again.
Yes.
And Arsenal fans, once again, you're at the front of the queue. Kind of annoys me, but okay, let's move on. Let's kick off with the ripple straight away. Arsenal's recruitment could be the end of Odegaard long term. The addition of Zubimende will help Arsenal in their progression from deep areas, leading to Odegaard's responsibility to drop deeper being negated. The addition of Gyökeres could allow Arteta to experiment with Havertz and Gyökeres together in certain games, with many managers seemingly toying with the idea of split strikers this season. Madueke and Eze, if he joins, would also offer more attacking options alongside Nwaneri, who is already knocking on the door. We've also got Max Dowman knocking about as well. If Odegaard doesn't contribute more further forward and also isn't needed as much for his progressive traits, could he be the next to slowly be phased out? Feels like utter madness if we'd had this conversation a year ago. But yet there's gentle pressure on Odegaard as part of the attack. In terms of the main attack, the sort of top front three, I guess we've got four. We've got Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Martinelli, and Gyökeres. Other options, this is good to kind of show you guys as well, because I think squad building is so important. Noni Madueke, Trossard, Nwaneri, Kai Havertz, Mika Marino, Gabriel Jesus, and the potential addition of Eberechi Eze. So, okay, first of all, Odegaard, and then second of all, your thoughts on this attacking lineup for Arsenal now.
I think it will become a big pressure point if Odegaard repeats the last 12 months. I mean, I think he was really
poor. That
form
can't continue, can it?
Yeah, it can't. And there's obviously the caveat of injuries in there, and Saka was out for much of last season, and so much of the best bits of Arsenal when they were at their best was that White Odegaard-Saka kind of relationship down the right-hand side. But he's under pressure. They wouldn't be strengthening in his position so clearly, because Eze is, well, he's a 10 who can also play in the left half space. He can kind of play in a variety of different positions. But if it was Eze brought in, that's a clear sign to Odegaard. This is a player that's in his prime right now. He's not 3 years younger than you. He's not 4 years younger than you. It's not a succession plan. It's you're up against him. Whoever wins will play. And he's been pretty brutal, Arteta, with moving aside players that were really important to their early rise. You know, Zinchenko's now not really a member of the first team squad, or at least not a crucial member of the first team squad. Yeah. Same with Gabriel Jesus, who I expect to be probably moved on in the next few weeks as well. And people forget how good Gabriel Jesus was for his first 6 months at Arsenal. Yeah. And I think they got 50 points in that first half of the year. Yeah. They were absolutely phenomenal, and Jesus was central to it. Unfortunately, injuries have just caught up with him. In terms of where their attack is, it's taken a serious step forward this summer. Has it gone far enough? Maybe not right now for me. But then I really have a belief that the arrival of Zubimende could really lead to an upturn in form from Martinelli as well. Because Zubimende is so good at finding
get
those...
it to him quickly.
Finding those spaces.
Too, right?
And the switches. I think, Martinelli probably hasn't been quite at his best since Granit Xhaka left the club, who was so good at finding that space between right back and centre back. And Martinelli is primarily, we talked a bit about it on Sky with Clive yesterday. I think he is primarily a runner and then a finisher. He's not super naturally creative. He needs kind of space to operate. But if you put him one-on-one with space to run into, he's very difficult to stop. And his finishing was very sharp up until recently and did show signs of getting back to it as well. So where their attack is at, I would still say they're probably one away for where they need to go, which is winning Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues. But it's very, very... It's far beyond solid.
I agree. Because Eze's not through the door yet. So without Eze, is it solid?
I think it might even be solid, which is quite brutal because but so much of it is reliant on Saka staying fit for an entire season, Odegaard getting back to his best, and then it feels one away. But if that doesn't happen with Odegaard, then it feels solid. It feels solid.
I'm in a place where I think they are one away. I think our initial gut reaction was correct. I think Eze if Eze doesn't go, because this is the problem now with modern transfers, isn't it? Before they've signed, and Eze's an Arsenal player in my head.
Yeah,
Isak's a Liverpool player in my head already, and it's not been done yet. So you do presume that it will occur, and if it does, I think they're one away. I agree with you. Okay, Aston Villa. So we did a podcast which you can go watch where we ranked everyone's most expensive signing so far. We didn't talk about Villa for long, so we can spend a bit more time here as promised. Let's have a look at the main attack currently. Leon Bailey, John McGinn, Morgan Rogers, Ollie Watkins. Then after that, you've got Marlon and Jacob Ramsey. Of course, you've lost Rashford and Asensio, John Duran in January as well. Potential additions, apparently. Nicholas Jackson being mooted. Garnacho being rumoured as well. How do you feel about that when I read that out, that attack? Because Villa aren't really, they're not spending much money right now. And if anything, the fear is that Watkins could be on his way out. So yeah, how do you feel about Villa's squad right now?
Feels very light.
It's funny that, isn't it? Because I feel like they smashed that January transfer window, and I think if you'd asked me in sort of February, March, you go, how good is Villa's squad? I'd go, it's better than people give it credit.
Too many loanees though, and were they ever going to sign Rashford permanently with his wages? Probably not, unless they got Champions League football. Even then, would Rashford want to go to Villa? No disrespect to Villa, but I think he had bigger aspirations, and quite rightly so, because he's ended up at Barcelona. Asensio, I don't really know what happened there. I would have probably looked to sign him permanently because
well,
I think Leon Bailey's probably on his way out, or should be considered on his way out, unless he's going to get back into favour with Unai Emery, because that's a player that you can make a bit of money on as well, because he wasn't signed for that much money. Garnacho feels like he's been linked obviously with Chelsea and Villa. I'd rather see Garnacho go to Villa
I like that.
than Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think he'd make a big difference there. I do think he's a really exciting young player, and still so young. And yes, there's some ego issues potentially. Yes, there's some attitude issues there. And I can see why Man United are just like, we're kind of done with that era now. But for a club like Villa, they could use that kind of injection and that last line attacker, because Rashford had a phenomenal impact there. People try and write that off, but I thought Rashford was great for Aston Villa. And Garnacho doesn't profile too dissimilarly. Yeah,
I agree. And it was been part of the problem, I guess, at United, hasn't it, a little bit? And you got Marlon there, who he's all right, isn't he? But he's sort of, I think Garnacho's got a higher ceiling. I would imagine it's one of those with Garnacho, go, bring him in, this will go well, it'll end badly. Because if he does well, you can imagine him then going, well, no, I want to go to, Barcelona, whatever. But I do like Garnacho as an option for them. Ollie Watkins, is it kind of worth, because this is the question I've got with when I'm looking at these names. Leon Bailey, is he a year ago stock high? Now stock struggling. It feels like there's a problem with the relationship there. John McGinn, is he going to stay the same? Is he going to get worse? Is he going to get better? Morgan Rogers, can he keep the same level? Ollie Watkins, can he keep the same level? There's a lot of question marks over that attack. But there's a lot of good players there as well. Jacob Ramsey, is he going to go to a new stratosphere? There's so many question marks. Ollie Watkins, if you're Ollie Watkins, do you want to go? Something's not. So it doesn't feel right there. I think we're still kind of stuck with the sort of January situation that he had as well. Like, can that be truly resolved in a way that everyone feels good? I don't know.
I think he was frustrated at points last season that John Duran was getting more headlines, that John Duran was getting more game time almost at points as well.
Took it for granted, maybe a touch.
Ollie Watkins, had an amazing season the year before, then went very deep in the Euros, obviously. And like a lot of players that went deep in that Euros, Phil Foden, most notably, had a bit of a struggle for points last season, but still had a respectable campaign. If I'm Ollie Watkins and the choice is stay at Aston Villa or go to Man United, I wonder whether he thinks Man United, obviously much more prestigious club, am I going to get a move to a big club?
Yeah,
and Man United, no matter where they are right now, they will always be a big club, at least for the next 20 years, you'd have thought. So I can see the motivation for Ollie Watkins. Like, there's a spot there. It feels like a new era of that attack with Brian Mbeumo and Cunha. And Villa feel like they kind of, if someone came in for Ollie Watkins and offered 60, 70 million pounds, I think they'd take it. They kind of need to in order to regenerate the rest of their squad. But you lose Watkins, then you need to replace Rashford, Asensio, Watkins, and John Duran
Yeah.
in a month. It's quite terrifying.
Yeah. So they probably can't, can they? Funny time for Villa, especially after having so many fun moments last season and getting a lot right. And generally, that as a club, they've been. The problem is the wage bill, isn't it? With PSR, that they're sort of in that bracket, aren't they? With Newcastle, where their incomings aren't enough to kind of help, sustain it almost. In terms of their attack, where would you put them?
I think at the moment weak, I'm afraid.
Wow.
I think it is quite weak. Definitely in terms of depth, with the Europa League campaign as well. If you get one big injury in there, as it stands, they're really weak.
If you sell, it's bizarre that you're even considering selling someone like Ollie Watkins. To not have him, you have no striker.
Well, I know. They'd have to sign two. But then it feels like they need to sell someone this summer to get something moving in terms of their freedom to sign anyone. Obviously, you'd rather sell Emi Martinez, but is he able?
I think they'll stick with what they've got, and therefore, for me, it's solid. But as the guest, we'll go with you. Aston Villa are weak, says.
Can hear the comments already.
Says Doogie. It's a bit of fun, guys. Okay, next up, Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth, as I said, I sort of tried to switch off a little bit from it all, and then when you kind of come back, you go, "Oh, Bournemouth have been pillaged, haven't they? I forgot about that." And then you kind of look at the front line, main attack: Semenyo, Kluivert, Tavernier. I can never get his name right. Tavernier, Evanilson. Other options: Ouattara, David Brooks. Is he still there, David Brooks? Or has he moved on? Eli Krupi and Enes Unal, who we forget about as well. The only kind of attacking player to leave is Jadon Anthony, and they kept hold of Semenyo. I think he's had a new deal as well, didn't he? So, and they've got Krupi, could be a huge signing for them. A lot of people kind of quite like him. People kind of forget that he came in January, but he stayed in France on loan. Bournemouth are actually much healthier than I kind of thought. It's sort of depth and quantity, isn't it?
Yeah, it's at the other end.
It's at the other end.
They've got their recruitment sort of pressure after losing Kirkes and Huijsen, and Zabani looks like he's leaving as well. But Groupie, I actually did a little bit of research on before we started this morning, just because I was like, I haven't heard that much about this guy. And there are, there's always those articles going around. But Timio Bakayoko, who used to play for Chelsea, said that there are Mbappe-esque elements of Groupie, which is very exciting. I mean, he's only 5'10", but he scored 22 goals in Ligue 2 last year for Lorient. And Lorient have been a great talent developer in recent years. Enzo Lefebvre, most notably, my new hero as well. He was a runner-up with France in their under-19 side.
I thought you were saying the player's name there. Manu hero as well.
But yeah, it was a member of the French under-19 side that finished runners-up in the Euros. Like, he's been recognised at international level with France. And Bournemouth have shopped in interesting places in recent years and signed some players, most notably Dean Huijsen, that have gone absolutely supernova. And Groupie feels like he could be the next one. I think keeping Semenyo is absolutely massive for them. Kluivert felt like maybe last year was kind of his peak level performance.
Do you think?
There was a period where he kind of, everything he did just turned to gold. And he was on pens as well, which helped.
That does help.
But Evanilson, I think, was really, really bright until he got injured. And Unal's a good backup. I'm pretty confident for Bournemouth to keep their attacking level at least.
So again, like the arrow thing. So the arrows, I think, can continue to either go up or stay. I'm a big fan of Kluivert, by the way. I think he's really, really good, really kind of refined. I don't feel like he's a one-season wonder. I think he's kind of there to stay as a good attacker. I think that's maybe not. I mean, what is one away? One away from it being as good as it can be. I think it's maybe solid.
For their level, it's solid, I think.
What could improve them? I think it's pretty good,
I do like Dango Ouattara as well. I think he made a big impact when there was, not just Evanilson, but also Enes Unal out, and he played that run of games around sort of February time, was it? What could be better? I think they are looking at the other end of the pitch. You maybe expect more out of someone like Alex Scott as well, who was a bit part player last year, but it was, called the Guernsey Grealish a few years ago as well, and did look really bright. So I'm fairly confident if Bournemouth recruit well in defence that they'll be safe.
Yeah, I think we've had a mare with the tier list, if I'm honest. I'm going to put them in solid, but I feel like I'm doing them a disservice there because I think it's as good as it could probably be right now. I'm excited. If this Krupi guy, he's the one, then maybe Bournemouth can do all right. Brentford. So the main attack: Carvalho, Damsgaard, Kevin Schade. Johan Visser at the time of recording. Other options, Ramel Donovan, Anthony Milambo, who we touched on in the first podcast, who's come from Feyenoord, and Igor Thiago, who we've not seen an outrageous amount from, but you would imagine is next on the runway when it comes to a club in Brentford that have brought through so many strikers that have been successful for them. It's absolutely incredible when you think about it. Like Visser and Burmo, Tony, Watkins, Maupay. Yeah, it's like it goes on and on and on and on. And it'd be interesting to see if Igor Thiago is the next one in that. Kevin Schade is kind of already fulfilling it and is probably now ready to make that jump, but he is going to need to because you've just lost a lot of goals. Well, if Visser is to go, do you think he will go?
It's difficult to say, isn't it? I think Newcastle look like they're going for Šeško primarily, but if they don't get Šeško, I imagine they'll turn their attention back to Johan Visser. It'll be interesting to see where Šeško's head's at. Does he want to back the long-term project of Man United, who might not be able to sign him for a couple of weeks until they've offloaded some players? Or does he want to go instantly to Newcastle, settle into a new side, and be the guy on the back of Isak's departure? I'd probably be tempted by going to Newcastle, given the fact he's probably got another major move in him, although Newcastle have proven in the last few years that they don't sell particularly easily. So maybe that would come into his thinking. But in terms of Brentford, Igor Thiago looked brilliant for Club Brugge, then gets injured as soon as he arrives in, I think it was pre-season. Yeah. So he's had a really difficult time at Brentford so far, but I kind of back him if he can get back to anywhere close to that level to make an impact as well. But Brian Mbeumo was directly involved in 41% of their league goals last year, and that was when Johan Visser was also scoring 20. I think he's just such a key cog, not just in terms of his goal scoring, but in terms of the way he knits that attack together. So that's
also,
massive.
It's like, how do they set up? We know how Thomas Frank has set up with Brian Mbeumo. There was a lot of so much. It was very sustainable. It was very settled at Brentford in terms of how they played and the players they had. There's just so much change there. And I don't know what a Keith Andrews team looks like. So he has to relay that and then they have to take that on. So there's a chemistry like gap. That makes sense. I think at best it's weak but it's so Brentford, this. It's so Brentford that, like, Damsgaard, can he have that kind of season again? Question mark. But Burmo, you would have said the same thing and he went on to another level again. Johan Visser, you would have said that before, but he's done 2 seasons of it now, pretty much. Kevin Schade is in his first season. Can he do it again? But then you're taking away the settledness. You're taking away Thomas Frank, but then it's such a great club. So there's such a mix here. Carvalho, we know is a good player, but didn't really get the opportunity there. Does that mean he's a bad player? No. I'm confused, Doogie.
I think we probably need, in the interest of fairness in this tier list, to have some that are in the bottom and some that are in the top. So for me right now, given the uncertainty, I'm actually going with firing blanks, I'm afraid.
I'm okay with that because there's so many unknowns there and you've just... All your bullets... are sort of going away, aren't they?
We're backing Schade to maintain or improve his performance. We're backing Igor Thiago to become the player he looked like he would when he signed. Right. And there's uncertainty over Johan Visser. I'm pretty worried for Brentford.
Yeah. Brighton. Minte, Jorginho Rutter, Mitoma, Welbeck is the sort of main attack that we're calling here. But other options include Gruder, O'Reilly, Enciso, Buonanotte, coming back as well. Tom Watson, Kostoulis, who we've spoken about in the Most Expensive Players podcast, and Simas as well. So they've got some depth knocking about there. I think that says it all for me. They have lost João Pedro, Evan Ferguson, and Simon Adingra. Could take them a moment to kind of get settled there. How much of a loss is Pedro, Ferguson, and Adingra for you?
Pedro's the big one, obviously. I mean, Evan Ferguson needed to move on. It's almost a shame with where his career's gone in the last couple of years. That loan to West Ham, I thought he'd play more.
It's a good move for him though, Romo, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Gasperini now in charge there. He's got an amazing reputation for taking strikers to the next level for the last few strikers, last sort of 10 years or so. Simon Adingra as well was linked with that move to Sunderland in January, and they wanted Tom Watson then. Tommy Watson obviously stayed, scored the crucial goal. I actually think Sunderland are potentially short-term the winners of that deal, if I'm being totally honest. Maybe that's my red and white hat on. But Tommy Watson will be, I think, a solid player in the future, but I'm not sure whether he's going to elevate Brighton next season. But you look at Minter, you look at Ruta, you look at the flexibility in those two. You look at Mitoma still there, despite loose links to Bayern Munich and clubs like that. Welbeck goes from, strength to strength is a bit of an exaggeration. He's just Danny Welbeck. He's just very, very solid.
Yeah. He has no age, does he?
And then people are expecting big things out of Gruder. Can't say I've seen a lot of him so far. Matt O'Reilly, I think, is a really talented player and was injured so early on last year as well. Enciso and Buonanotte, maybe one of them will be loaned out. But
I find that mad, by the way. Like, I think the floor is really high here with Brighton. Sorry, it's just how high is that ceiling of you could have moved. I really like Enciso. I really like Buonanotte. You can't say he's rubbish just because he was at Leicester who was struggling. I think Brighton is so curious to me. Rutter as well. I like him more and more the more I see him. Welbeck's so steady, but it's the ceiling. How high is the ceiling with these guys? That's the thing I wonder sometimes. How hot can they run? They could absolutely beat anyone. They could absolutely lose to everyone.
Mm-hmm. I think for where they are in that kind of middle tier of the Premier League, I think the amount of options they've got when you compare it to an Everton right now or an Aston Villa, I'm putting it in elite in terms of depth. And maybe that's asking a lot of Kustelas, who I do really have high hopes for. And João Pedro is a drop-off or a big absentee, let's say. But in terms of depth, I genuinely think it's elite.
Ballsy. Chuck Brighton above Arsenal. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. It's a very granular discussion, okay? So these things will occur. Burnley. Koleosho, Hannibal Mejbri, Marcus Edwards, that's right, and Zion Fleming. We've spoken about Chauna. I struggle with his name. When there's too many consonants really, and then too many vowels. That's not fair. Jaden Anthony's come through the door. Jacob Brun-Larsen has returned to the club. Nathan Redmond has left when it comes to the attacking assets. Josh Brownhill, I don't even know what the latest is. He's sort of I think he's a free agent now. I can't remember if he's signed or not. They're really, really tough to predict here. But I do feel like whenever I watch Mejbri, there's something
very tenacious. Yeah,
very tenacious, and it can kind of either blow up or he could explode. He could be really good this season. Marcus Edwards, I'm pleased he's back in the Premier League. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think they need a striker here. Overall, though, as much as I would love to, I want to be as positive as possible. I am struggling a little bit. It feels like at the there are a few. They're not even one away. They're a few away. Zion Fleming, that's a massive jump to the Premier League to be, and you need someone who's going to get some goals.
Absolutely. I mean, Josh Brownhill was their top scorer last year with 18, and he scored 6 goals in over 100 games in the Premier League. Someone needs to step up here, and it's difficult to imagine. Whereas you could maybe imagine someone like Wilson Isidore or Aliza Mayenda getting some goals for Sunderland. Maybe Talby hits the ground running. Maybe Enzo Lefebvre gets 5 or 6. Of the players we've mentioned, it's quite difficult to see anyone getting close to 10. And I do think you probably need a forward to get close to 10 to survive. Maybe Marcus Edwards is the bright spot just because of that one-on-one dribbling ability and ability to make things happen. But I'm concerned that Burnley will be so deep with such little possession that it'll be really, you'll be asking a lot from him. And I think dribblers at that end of the Premier League, we saw it last year with Ipswich and Jack Clarke. You're asking them to run sort of 60 metres and create something on the hoof, and it's often pretty difficult. Yeah,
they were really strong defensively last season. So that's going to be the kind of basis of stuff. But you've got to get yourself. You'll have been in this place as well. When you're in a team that you don't think can get yourself enough goals, you're sort of hopeful, and then if you concede the first goal, you just think, well, we're not going to score 2, are we?
Yeah, exactly. Heads drop,
and then it has a compounding effect. So I think they're firing blanks, aren't they?
I think they're firing blanks as well. Sorry, Burnley.
Okay, Chelsea. Just signed João Pedro and Liam Delap. Will that see Enzo Maresca experiment with those split strikers next season? As mentioned, Havertz and Gyökeres. Plenty of teams, as we mentioned with Havertz and Gyökeres, plenty of teams have showcased their willingness to build up with two strikers effectively, pinning both central defenders and looking to be more direct in build-up. João Pedro was a target for Newcastle to play with Isak. Obviously, at the time of recording, a little chat about Isak and Ekitike at Liverpool, if they sign both of them, if you were going to try and get both of them in the team. Could see another two-striker dynamic. Could we see the same with João Pedro and Liam Delap? You've also got Nicholas Jackson if he stays. You're going to want to kind of utilise these guys a little bit. Do you see that occurring in any way, shape or form? I'm not actually sure if I'm honest. Like sometimes I'm not totally sure if I'm having it. I think Enzo Maresca is pretty set in his ways in terms of how he likes to set up, which is why they've had the sort of churn of wingers that they've had. That doesn't mean it's not a great attack. And I also think, when we take inspiration from the Lionesses, I don't think there's anything wrong in 60 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you play in the Champions League, you swap it round, 60 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you got your third guy knocking about as well. I do think this Chelsea team is really, really starting to take shape. We wondered, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're slowly getting there. The main attack will be Neto, Cole Palmer, Jamie Gittins possibly, and João Pedro. Other options: Delap, Esteval, and Nicholas Jackson, Xavi Simons being linked as well. Sancho, João Felix, and Noni Madueke have made way. How do we feel about this attack?
I think it's upgraded from last year quite considerably. Nkunku now out of the picture, Sancho now out of the picture, Mudryk now out of the picture, Madueke gone for a decent fee as well. Palmer potentially going to have to play more on the right-hand side because I think Estevao might not be quite ready to make an instant impact in the Premier League. He only turned 18 in April. And as promising as he's looked playing for Palmeiras, it's still a big upgrade. I was looking the other day.
Yeah. He really did.
And I was looking the other day. Vinicius Jr. scored 15 goals in his first 3 seasons at Real Madrid. And I mean, look where he is now. But it did take him a long time. And it was actually, I was watching the Vinicius Jr. documentary the other day, which I think is available on Netflix if you want to check it out. And it wasn't until Santiago Solari arrived and they were saying, like a fellow South American, that really got his arm around Vinicius Jr. and he gave him the confidence that he then became the player he was. Zidane in his first stint played him a lot in Castilla. Like, it took him a while to adapt. And Vinicius Jr. is obviously absolutely exceptional, but looked exceptional in Brazil too, is my point. And Estevao is the first South American import at Chelsea that's going straight into the first team squad. Kendry Paez stayed longer at his parent club. André Santos has been out on a series of loans. David Washington's not featured whatsoever. So I think he deserves time and he deserves patience, but there's so much promise there. Gittins I'm excited about. I think people have looked at the final 6 months of his time at Dortmund where he didn't play that much because Niko Kovac changed system and Adeyemi was difficult to leave out at that particular moment. You're probably going to play Julian Brandt because he's the more naturally creative. And then Serhou Guirassy just has to play because he was an absolute machine last year for Dortmund in a poor side. And they see that Gittins played so little football that barely scored in the final 6 months and think, oh, he's not really worth the money. Jamie Gittins in the first half of last year I thought was absolutely exceptional. Scored in all the biggest games, including against Real Madrid, including against Bayern, Leverkusen. I think there's an amazing one-on-one player there as well. And if you give him the freedom to develop with time and patience, as you will get now Xavi Simons looks like he's arriving as well, who'll probably play on the left-hand side a little bit more, then I think Chelsea's starting 11 and depth in forward areas looks really good. I wonder whether you win a Premier League with Delap and João Pedro when you are competing against a Liverpool that could have Salah, Wirtz, Ekitike, maybe even Isak. But in terms of where they're at, they've definitely taken a step forward in terms of their squad building.
It's hard, isn't it, when it comes to the tiers here? Because do you consider them deadly? Are they one player away for you?
It's difficult though.
Solid. I think a team with Cole Palmer in there and this kind of quality in there. I think one away. What is one away? Because are they going to? Well, if Jackson leaves, the reports are that they'll look to sign another 9. But who is that 9 going to be? The 9 market's been and gone. So one away doesn't feel quite right. I think compared to last year, in my personal opinion, they feel deadly. But should they be at the top of the Premier League ranking when it's João Pedro and Delap as their 9 options? Is that a better attack than Arsenal's attack?
Not for me. Just because I think Arsenal will finish with as good a depth and have a player in Saka, although they do have Palmer, so I kind of take it back. But Who do I back to score more goals next season? Gyökeres, João Pedro, or Delap? And it's a bit of a difficult question because Delap and João Pedro will probably alternate more. But I think Gyökeres probably scores the most goals out of the three of them.
Who will score more non-set piece goals?
Chelsea or Arsenal?
I think Arsenal will score more goals. Chelsea will score more goals.
I think there's a chance of that.
The reason they're not, you wonder if they can win the league, is the defence.
Let's do it.
They've got crazy depth there. I think, great question for people. Would you rather have the sort of quality and depth of Chelsea's attacking lineup or the quality and depth of Arsenal's? It's really hard.
I think there's also a factor in that their top scorer in the league last year was Cole Palmer. He was probably quite disappointed with 15.
I don't know if I believe what I've just said.
It's a good one. But then their next top scorers were Nicholas Jackson with 10. He'll probably leave the club or not be featuring. Their next top scorer after that was Madueke with 7. He's already left the club. You are asking a lot of new players to come into this. Delap, João Pedro, Xavi Simons, Estevao, Gittins. That's a lot of new players joining an attack at once. So that's why I think that I back Arsenal, who feel more settled despite the fact that they've got a new striker.
Are Chelsea elite or are they one away?
I think, okay. Yeah, one away. I don't think one away doesn't quite work for them.
No. Do we need to change one away?
I think let's stick with it. Oh, I found this question so difficult. I've actually just got cramp as well.
We'll stick with it. If there was a better tier, set of tiers, then it's too late. We move on. Crystal Palace. Ismaila Sarr. Eberici Eze, currently. Jean-Philippe Mateta. Daniel Munoz, if you want to put him in there with Tyrick Mitchell. He's not really in there, is he? But Munoz a little bit more. Other options, Nketiah, Romain Esse, Justin Devenny, and Kamada. Potential additions, El Kanous, Evan Gesund, and Jeffrey Schlupp has left the club. How good is this attack without Eze in it, is my question.
Eze was amongst the Premier League's highest shot takers last season. And actually his conversion rate was really, really poor until the final few months of the season.
That is broadly his biggest weakness for me.
Yes. But he had an amazing impact towards the end of the season. I think it was like 6 goals in his final 7 in the league. He scored in every one of the final 3 rounds of the FA Cup. Really did carry that side to an amazing end to the season. Huge respect to him for that. Is it the case of if a top player leaves, other people step up? And if so, who would that be? Because Mateta probably feels like he's operating at the very top of his ability, I would say, right now. Maybe Ismaila Sarr gets more goals and assists. Maybe Daichi Kamada steps up a little bit, but he was playing a little bit deeper last year as well. I think they'd need to sign a player that instantly kind of hits the ground running. Otherwise, there would be a drop-off in their attacking
Conference
abilities.
League football as well. Well,
Yeah.
Hopefully something gets sorted out and it's Europa League football. I'm concerned. You lose Eze, I think he's the glue in the sense of like sometimes it's like even just to keep the kind of general like mood up, like to have someone go, well, let's give it to Eze. I'm sure he'll do something. Like to not have that, it's at the very best weak. Feels weak.
It's also being done very late in the window. It feels like it's going to be an August move, potentially in August, even after the season started. Maybe I'm slightly concerned. Weak
Weak or firing blanks.
If he leaves, firing blanks.
I think we're living in that world. Hopefully, not if you're a Palace fan. Hopefully, wrong. Finn, thoughts as a Palace fan? Finn's worried. Okay. There, we got that right at least. It's not a personal attack. Everton. Iliman Ndiaye. Carlos Alcaraz. Not that one. Dwight McNeil. And Tierno Barry. We spoke about it in the other podcast. Make sure you go check it out. Beto is the other option. Linked with Malik Fofana. Also being linked with Jack Grealish at the moment. Very exciting. Left the club, Neil Maupay. Calvert-Lewin, Doucouré, Lindstrom, Harrison, Brozier. I would say that Everton fans, aside from a sort of gentle pining for Doucouré at some point, are not bothered about any of those players leaving. No disrespect to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who I like as a player, but so struggled with injuries. I mean, it's an exciting time to be an Everton fan. They're definitely going to bring people in. They've had to be so careful for so many transfer windows and now have that room to do what they want to a point. I guess the question here is, so the main attack being Njai, Alcaraz, McNeil and Barry with Beto on the bench. That's not enough. That's not enough right now. But like, how good does this attack be if you can bring in Grealish and Malik Fofana? I really like Malik Fofana.
I do too. I think amongst under, I think he's 21 or 20, and it feels like him and Jamie Gittins were the top of their age bracket. I mean, Nico Williams and Bradley Barker are a little bit older, but I think under 21 left wingers in the world, I think they're right up there. And you look at Forest going for him as well. If Everton get him, that's a real coup. And he's been linked with the likes of Liverpool in the past as well. I agree with you in terms of those outgoings. I was looking down the same list and thinking, not really missing him. Maybe Jack Harrison, but he didn't really perform last year. I do think he's quite a good player, but he didn't really perform.
Yeah.
The exciting one is the fact that Iliman Ndiaye might never be a numbers player, or maybe he just wasn't playing in a team that will get in the numbers. But in terms of enjoyment watching a player, there's very few I'd rather watch in the Premier League. I think he's so fun.
So me and Kai have a regular argument about it because he put forward that Iliman Ndiaye is a better player than Adel Taarabt.
Wow.
And in terms of overall fame, I think Adele's up there. But in terms of like what Iliman Ndiaye can do, he feels like Ndiaye is kind of right up there. Talent-wise, I'm like, shut up. But yeah, I do really like Iliman Ndiaye, and I think he's this generation's Steven Pienaar for Everton. So I think if they can get some of these guys through, I'd love to see Jack Grealish there. I think the fans would love it. I think he'd really enjoy it. I think it would kind of be almost going back to sort of a halfway house between the Villa of now and the Villa of then, like a little bit safer. And I think it would get them to a place where they would. I think they're going to be very difficult to play against. Is the overall quality there yet? Maybe not, but maybe if you can bring in Grealish, it could change.
They also seem to be looking for like what I would describe as like a threader of passes, someone that can open up a game with their vision. And they've been linked with Takefusa Kubo from Real Sociedad, who I think is an amazing, amazing player. I know he didn't really show it last year at Real Sociedad, but even his raw numbers in terms of how he carries the ball, his carries into the box, his carries into the final third, his passes into the box, I think he'd be a really, really good addition. I mean, it was only a couple of years ago that I was thinking, if Salah was to leave, who is the next cab off the rank? And Kubo, unfortunately, hasn't got to that level where he would have ever been ready for Liverpool. But there was the raw sort of ingredients there a few years ago that made you think this guy could be really, really special. I mean, for a guy that spent time at Barcelona and Real Madrid, at Real Sociedad, the team was kind of built around him. Last year, they lost Le Normand, they lost Marino, Zubamendi's future was uncertain as well. They had a really difficult year, and Kubo wasn't at his best. But it's almost like the Isak from Real Sociedad in his final year. Like, he's had a down year. Now is the time to buy him for not the fee that you probably would have had to pay for him a year before. So bring in Kubo, bring in Malik Fofana, bring in Grealish, and I think
Adam Asnu they've been linked with.
Yeah, true. The left back from Bayern, who I haven't seen that much of. But again, Mikolenko isn't getting any younger. These are exciting signings. They really are. And I think Everton can be optimistic about a potential top 10 finish if they get some of these players.
But how deadly is their attack?
Yes, sorry, I slightly went off beat there. I think at the moment, given how few players they've got, it's solid, but it has real upturns.
Yeah, I think solid's a good shout. That one away tier is horrific. What are we doing? Let's change it. What can we do? It's so close. No, like
on the verge.
Like good. Fulham, Wilson, Smith Rowe, Alex Iwobi, Raul Jimenez. Other options: Muniz, Adama Traore, who's linked with Forest, I think, at the moment. Ryan Sessegnon and Andreas Pereira. They're so clear in what their squad. Ex-Liverpool, ex-Arsenal, ex-Barcelona, ex-Spurs, ex-Man United. Linked with Raheem Sterling. Carlos Vinicius has gone. Willian has gone. Reece Nelson went back on loan, but I think they're chatting to him, aren't they? Yeah, how do we feel about Fulham? Fulham, they're sort of just... we say this sometimes on the pod with Flav, Jaffin. We go, I said some teams are fog. Like you just sort of can't. I don't really see them.
Yeah.
Fulham, like this summer, this is very foggy.
Well, I think everyone gets so excited in the summer, don't they? They want the shiny new
want
thing.
new,
They
don't they?
want
Yeah.
they want an influx. But you look at the age of some of those players, like Wilson, Smith Rowe, Iwobi, even Rodrigo Muniz. Like these guys have got years ahead of them.
Yep.
And I thought Alex Iwobi was sensational last year. I think you can expect more out of Smith Rowe, who I think faded quite significantly. Are Rodrigo Muniz and Raul Jimenez happy with the kind of arrangement there? Maybe they could look to bring in a future Raul Jimenez replacement, but on the basis of last year, he didn't look quite done yet. Raheem Sterling is an interesting one. I like to think, because I love Sterling, that there is a solid Premier League player in there once again, and if he played and started 20 league games, you could get, I don't know, 5 to 15 goals and assists out of him, or something around that figure. 5 is actually pretty low for that, but a solid return.
I think it would be a great move for Raheem Sterling because I think he's a smart player, and I think Pereira, Wilson, Smith Rowe, Iwobi could find him. So I think, and if you think of, I mean, he's different to William, but like in terms of like the having just elder statesman, even though he's not that old, kind of coming into it, I think that would be a really, really good move for him. Regardless, I think they're kind of solid.
Yeah. Nothing to panic about. I think
No.
everyone wants the fresh stuff, as we said,
Yeah.
and there's no fresh stuff, but what you've got is good.
Yes. Next up is Leeds. Dan James, Brendan Aronson, Wilfred Nonto, Lucas Nemeka. Other options, Jack Harrison, Joel Perreault, and Largi Ramzani. Mana Solomon has gone back on loan. I presume they would want to go for him again. I thought overall he did all right from last year, if I remember rightly. That in the Championship, that looks great. In the Prem,
Weak at the moment. I think most Leeds fans would admit, we talked about it in the last podcast, how I like a lot of, and we both do, like a lot of their defensive recruitment, like a lot of their midfield recruitment. This is obviously their priority for the final month of the window. That has to be improved on. Like Lucas Mecha, really talented player, great physical profile. His brother, is doing well at Dortmund now.
Yeah.
Difficult
he was great
gig.
in the Club World Cup.
Really,
really good.
Really difficult gig, replacing kind of being seen as the Jude Bellingham style in terms of what you bring to a midfield. But that attack looks weak at Premier League level. Is Dan James or Brendan Aronson or Willy Nonto scoring close to 10 league goals? I'm not sure. Is Lucas Mecha? No.
They need it. I'm amazed they've not gone and got Callum Wilson. I find that mad, honestly. Like, bring him in, you go, yeah, he scores goals. He knows what it's like to be kind of a team that's kind of hoping to stay up. He's been there, he's done it. I find it mad that they've not gone and solved that. And even if you want to go get another really exciting striker elsewhere, let Callum Wilson deal with the burden of the pressure of it. Because I think he can do that. But it seems as though apparently he's going to West Ham quite possibly. Which, I mean, West Ham need him as well. But yeah, I think at the moment they're firing blanks for me. I like that. I like the midfield reinforcements that they've got there. And look, there's still time. But for me, that's weak at the moment. It's weaker than weak. It's firing blanks. Yeah, you agree?
I agree. Sorry, Leeds.
How cruel. Liverpool. Liverpool's signing is a ripple for you. Signing Hugo Ekitike has actually led to Alexander Isak pushing to leave Newcastle. Isak hadn't looked to force a move in the early weeks of the season, despite interest from Liverpool. Newcastle were clearly looking to show ambition, linked with Ekitike and trying to add quality around him in attacking areas. Alanga too. Liverpool then come in, take Ekitike, whilst Newcastle continue to struggle to get their targets, and then Isak says he wants to leave. So could Newcastle's failure to add someone like Ekitike in attack with Isak actually have caused him to lose faith with Newcastle's summer business? How long ago do you think Isak had made the decision that I expect to go to Liverpool this year?
I actually think relatively recently. I think
Really?
if they'd made the signings that him and Bruno Guimaraes were publicly calling for at the end of the season, they were basically like, the last time we were in the Champions League, we struggled to balance both. We kind of need 4 or 5 new players. And they weren't criticising current members of the starting 11, but they were basically calling for backup. That didn't arrive. And for me, if he decided it months ago, it would have made more sense to say it months ago when there was more options potentially on the table. But ultimately, maybe Liverpool said, look, we will come in for you at the end of the year. We need to sort some other things out first. We've just spent a huge amount on Verts. Maybe we need to line up some more outgoings before we line up this another monster deal. But if I was Eddie Howe, I wouldn't be that far away from considering my long-term future at the club.
Wow.
Because you've got them into the Champions League twice. You've reached the summit of winning a trophy for Newcastle, first in 70 years, and this is the summer that's followed.
But it's not what. So you're not sort of throwing mud there, because there's nothing there's nothing the club can do.
No,
like in terms of they're not allowed to spend any more money. So it's not an ambition thing. It's a
ultimately,
rules
he'll
thing.
know what the budget is, and he'll know how close they were to landing various targets. And someone like James Trafford, I know Man City had this clause in his contract where they could match whatever was offered, and they waited until, I think, 24 hours before that was about to pass, and then they went in for him, which is pretty brutal. But for Newcastle to publicly go for so many targets, and no matter the extent that you go in for, the mood around the club right now has, I would have thought, impacted Isak's decision to throw in the towel right now.
Yeah, true.
And you have potentially lost the player that could take your club forward for the next few years. And even if you sign Benjamin Šeško, who I think would be an amazing addition for Newcastle, and it's the perfect club for him in many ways, because I wasn't quite sure about going to Arsenal and being expected to score 15 to 20 goals in all competitions immediately for Šeško. But in 2-3 years' time, he's got huge sell-on value, even at that price, I believe. And I do think he could make a massive difference at a club like Newcastle, who love number 9s, who will be looking for a new hero. So things are not all doom and gloom.
I feel like we've skipped to Newcastle here. So let's do Newcastle, but we'll wrap Liverpool within this. So with Newcastle, Anthony, Gordon, Alanga, and Isak as the main attacking options. But you got Jacob Murphy, Harvey Barnes, Joe Linton, Antonito Cordero, and potential additions to Šeško and Nicholas Jackson. Callum Wilson has left the club, as we've spoken about. How do you rank that attack? Gordon, Alanga, and Isak's there at the moment, but let's live in a world where Isak goes and Šeško moves in, because that's kind of the reality faux reality we're living in a little bit.
It's either solid or weak. I think it really does depend on that striking position, because at the moment they don't have Callum Wilson. Their only other senior backup with any experience is a Sula in that position as well, who didn't look particularly ready to play regular Premier League minutes at least last year. If they keep Isak, I don't think they're in a terrible position. They'll look to sign another striker as well, whether that's Johan Visser. If they keep Isak, I don't think they've got the budget to go for Šeško, but maybe they bring in Johan Visser, and then you're looking pretty solid.
Yeah.
You've strengthened on the right-hand side. You've got Barnes and Gordon on the left-hand side. You've got Alanga and Murphy on the right-hand side, and Visser and Isak. You'd say that's probably solid.
The tiers are looking better now, by the way. Because I think for the world you're living in, like we've got Bournemouth, Everton and Fulham solid. For Newcastle are a Champions League club, right? They are in the Champions League. And so for them to have, if they were just in the league, I think that's a solid, if not good, change it to good, tier. But with the Champions League coming, if you haven't got Visser yet, and Brentford are currently saying that he's not going to go, I don't know if who knows what that means. I think at best you can get to, the best you can get to is to solid. Aston Villa we've got in weak.
Okay, I see your point, but I do think Villa have fewer options right now. I mean, at least Gordon, Barnes, Alanga, Murphy, Isak I still think that's fairly solid. It's not.
That's if you've got Isak.
That's if you got Isak.
If you haven't got Isak and you've got Šeško, is Šeško today better than Watkins?
No.
So I think.
Okay, let's go weak.
We're going weak because of the Champions League football, and it's opposed to where you
I'm always
really want
nervous
to
about
be.
criticising Newcastle too hard because they do chase.
Well, it's on me then. That's my choice. I've made the call. So Liverpool, we come back to that. This is their main attack. Gakpo, Florian Wirtz, Mohamed Salah and Hugo Ekitike. Other options, Dominic Szoboszlai, Darwin Núñez, Harvey Elliott and Federico Chiesa currently. Luis Diaz left the club, and of course, as we know, tragically, Diogo Jota has passed away. Potential additions, Rodrigo. I mean, it's what... The summer's been utterly dominated for obviously heartbreaking reasons and for, exciting transfer reasons by Liverpool. And we're now in this just very... Liverpool fans just must be... how are you feeling? Like, this is... obviously you've got to separate the tragedy of Jota to the sort of window, the frivolous window shopping of the transfer window. But this is not the Liverpool way, the spending this kind of money. And I wonder how wholeheartedly planned all of it was. But if they get to this point at the end of it, where their main attack is Cody Gakpo, Florian Wirtz, Mohamed Salah, and Hugo Ekitike, that is pretty deadly.
Yeah, there's a few new players in there that will need to gel, but on paper, it's a phenomenal looking attack. It's really versatile, mainly helped by the fact that Florian Wirtz can play in all three positions, probably hypothetically. At least as a sort of false nine, and then you maybe play Gakpo and Salah in behind. I think Cody Gakpo will be quite crucial in this, actually in an underrated way as well. Like that relationship between Salah and Gakpo, particularly at the back stick, was massive last year. Massive. Like Salah is not just, his dribbling isn't as effective as it once was, and he's not so willing to do it, but he's so much more creative than he used to be and so much more selfless, whilst also maintaining ridiculous output in terms of his goals as well. It is a phenomenal looking attack. I think Hugo Ekitike, for me, I said it kind of all summer when he was linked with Arsenal loosely, and it was him versus Šeško. For me, he's a much more complete all-round striker than Šeško at the moment, and I know people are worried because his underperformance of his XG last year was troubling, and he doesn't have that much experience. He's only been playing regularly at a top 5 league for the last year and a half. Well, at least at a top European top 5 league, if Reims doesn't necessarily be included in that. But I really like Hugo Ekitike, and there's even a world that he could kind of play as a left winger, Salah and Wirtz in between as well. We talked a bit about it yesterday on a Sky show as well. SUBSTACK, I think, do not forget about Dominic Szoboszlai and the energy and pressing that he can bring to this midfield and that number 10 position as well. But they look, despite everything that's gone on this summer with the tragic loss of Jota, they look really well set for another title challenge, and I think they are, I would say, the favourites right now, and I would make them overwhelming favourites if they signed Isak.
I think the obvious, with Liverpool, it's obvious, isn't it? They're definitely
got
elite.
to be.
Man City, the main attack. Savinho, Phil Foden, Omar Marmoush, Erling Haaland sneaks in there. Other options, Rayan Cherki, Bernardo Silva, James McAtee, Jeremy Doku, Jack Grealish. There is a lot of quality there, but Kevin De Bruyne has left the club. Ryan Cherki, I think, is one of the big talking points, because at the Club World Cup, the question that we kept wanting to go to for the discussion, it was like, what's the starting 3 or 4? And like, it just doesn't wholeheartedly exist. Like, you kind of almost need to put them all in there, because there's a lot of question marks, and there's a lot of new exciting things, and there's so many different profiles as well. I guess the only thing that maybe stops them from being elite is the loss of Kevin De Bruyne.
Mm-hmm.
And can Ryan Cherki kind of bridge that gap, or can the whole group bridge that gap? But you've got one of the best strikers in the world. I'm a big fan of Omar Marmoush. I actually think that new way of playing Jeremy Doku, if they kind of lean into it, I think opens him up to being so much more exciting. And Ryan Cherki's just so fun. But is the output as good as Kevin De Bruyne?
Phil Foden had such a bad year last year as well that Cherki and Foden, I think, can compensate for Kevin De Bruyne of the last year, of the last 18 months, let's say, because Kevin De Bruyne has missed, I think it was close to 50 games since the start of the season before last with injury. So there has been a lot of injury issues there. But if you look underneath the bonnet of Ryan Cherki in terms of his creative numbers, they were one of the best in Europe last season in terms of his expected assists per 90. Absolutely remarkable. And we've kind of been waiting for Ryan Cherki to have that season, and he had it, and it was amazing, and he's earned this move. Very, very good price for Man City as well. You look at the money spent for Florian Wirtz, who I'm not saying is not an exceptional player, but Cherki, real bargain find as well for Man City, taking advantage of that Lyon situation. In terms of their attack, I want to see more from Savio in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
I want to see more from Doku in terms of numbers as well. Oscar Bobb's coming off an injury. I expect him to stay at the club. James McAtee looks like he's going to be sold or loaned.
Is Gundogan gone? Gundogan's still there?
Gundogan's still there, I think, at the moment as well. But again, I thought he was really poor last year. That signing didn't really work out. But in Marmoush and Haaland, in Cherki, in Foden, they should be pretty good. They should be pretty good. I don't think they feel as settled as an Arsenal, and I think they don't necessarily have the wow factor of a Liverpool right now. In terms of those wide players, there's still a little bit to prove in terms of Savio and Doku.
Still elite, isn't it?
It's It's elite. It doesn't feel right to call it good. So yeah, let's go elite.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think they're kind of sneak in there, but I think Liverpool's is fresher, isn't it? Oh, they're pretty fresh. You're right. It's the Foden thing. It's sort of Foden being average last year, Doku being average last year, Savinho feeling a bit average last year. That's why we're maybe not. That could really kick off.
I don't feel ready to say, that side scores 95 goals, but they could.
Yeah, got you. Man United, Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha, Joshua Zirkzee. You got Amid Diallo and Patrick Dorgu as wing backs. Big season for Dorgu, I think, this season, by the way. I'm intrigued to see how he sort of helps the team. Obviously, you got Bruno Fernandes knocking about as well. Mason Mount knocking about as well. Obi knocking about as well. How do you feel about this forward line? Potential additions, Seshko or Ollie Watkins. Can Mbeumo, Cunha and Joshua Zirkzee get Man United into a top 8 finish?
I wouldn't have thought so, to be honest. I think the top 8 at the moment look pretty strong. You look at even the strengthening that someone like Spurs has done. You look at the solidity of sides like Villa, who have lost some key players as well, but maybe that Watkins transfer comes into it as well. Bryan Mbeumo and Cunha were both exceptional last season. I'm not saying they weren't. But Man United had more issues than just the kind of final third, can't get the ball in the back of the net. There was no chance creation.
Yeah.
They were so passive with the ball.
So reliant on Bruno.
The gaps between midfield and defence was really disjointed. I think now they have some really high quality centre-back options with Yoro, with Lisandro Martinez back as well. I think De Ligt hopefully is a better year as well. Maguire, that's some really strong centre-back options. I think Bryan Mbeumo and Ahmad, that's great right 10s. Cunha, I think he seems like he's got the personality. He's already been at Atletico Madrid. He's already been at RB Leipzig. I do think that striker changes the feel of that side. But I also look in central midfield and maybe Bruno's playing alongside there. But if Bruno's playing there, you need someone quite physically dominant. And Ugarte loves smashing into people and can make big tackle interception numbers, but his on-the-ball abilities and sort of liabilities going when he's quickly turned as well. I struggle with their central midfield options.
Yeah. And even like sort of the West Ham game, there's some okay bits, but you were like, you look at the goals. One's a penalty, one's a poor pass from Areola. So I'm not really still not seen it. Be interested to see if Zirkzee can kind of sort of thrive.
Brilliant
with those two. Yeah, there's something nice. Something nice about someone who stands still.
Yeah,
like in terms of just linking it all together. You got someone like Mbeumo going past him. It's still.
I don't think it's weak, personally.
No,
I think that's harsh.
Solid.
I think it's solid.
I think you're right. I think it's solid. And I think, come on, Mason Mount.
Let's do it, Mason.
I'm desperate for him to do well, man.
Although now he's just got Cunha in front of him. This is the thing with all these players. They're bringing in players to replace the players that they only recently signed for big money in those positions. So.
Yeah. I mean, Sancho, Garnacho, Anthony, all in the squad. Still.
The
I
untouchables.
think it's odd. Yeah. Newcastle. We've done Newcastle.
We have.
Nottingham Forest. Dan and Doy, which is, we've got Here We Go from Fabrizio. So it's pretty much done. That's better than a legally binding document. Morgan Gibbs White has been told off, and the interview with
extraordinary.
I just love the
Mr. Marinakis. Thank you, Mr. Marinakis.
I think
we're also grateful to Mr. Marinakis.
I reckon there will be some banter being flown his way. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Chris Wood, of course, in that attack as well. Igor Jesus. We were talking about in the other podcast as well, which you can have a look at. Jota Silva, Nicholas Dominguez, Elliot Anderson, who likes to get on, as well as other options. I think the question here is, can this... how good was the attack last season? Chris Wood was brilliant. I mean, they were good because they were winning. They won a lot of games 1-0.
Yeah, absolutely. They got ahead and then had that amazing defence. I think their defence was really with Sells and Murillo and Milenkovic and Olarena. That was really the selling point for me in that Forest
and the
side.
style of play as well.
And the way they
give themselves space. Yeah, exactly.
I felt Elliot Anderson was amazing, and I'm not criticising any of their forwards, but it did feel like they needed a summer to improve their depth before a European campaign, because they have risen very fast, very quickly. And I wonder whether this year there's just a natural step back. And that's fine.
Reverting to the mean, right?
Take a mid-table finish. Take 12th. It really doesn't matter long term. You're still in a very good position. just don't drop off massively, which I don't expect them to do. In terms of that attack, if they keep everyone fit, I think it's solid.
Agree.
A couple of injuries though, and it's
Drifting
weak.
towards me. Yeah. I think for today it's solid. I'm intrigued to see how Ndoye does. Let's see if he can kind of, because I think Alanga's got a lot of assists over the last couple of seasons. I don't know if am I stealing your stat here? There's only like a couple of players since the start of last season have got more assists than him.
Yeah, I think it was Salah and Murphy last year.
That's it. So that is a lot of output, and the sort of pairing between him and Chris Wood was really, really strong.
Also, Dan Ndoye is a natural left winger. Callum Hudson-Odoi is a natural left winger. Yeah, I think in many ways a more natural right winger would have made more sense. But let's see.
Okay, Sunderland, your team, Doogie. We've got a main attack of Adingra, Talibi, Mayenda. If you disagree with that, feel free to. Isador, Mundel, Awashish, Chris Rigg, Patrick Roberts, and Enzo Lefebvre. Tom Watson has left the club. Joe Bellingham has left the club. Some people kind of think of Joe Bellingham as an out-and-out attacker, and he played in so many different roles for Borussia Dortmund. He had a really, really good tournament. And actually even played as a bit of a second striker in one of the games with Guarassi. But for Sunderland, he kind of stayed on that left sort of side with Dan Neil, was it?
Mm-hmm.
So from an attacking point of view, you weren't really losing much there. Tom Watson obviously came on, didn't even start that final. But the additions are, I think Adingra is a great signing for you personally. How do you feel? I'm going to stop talking now. How do you feel about your attack?
I'm excited. It's quite green. It's really pretty green. Like Mayenda's, I think 20 or 21. Adingra is the one with Premier League experience, but he's only been here for 2 years, or at least playing regularly for 2 years. Talby's never played in the Premier League. Mundel's never played in the Premier League. Isidor's never played in the Premier League. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Isidore, given he's that little bit older and has had more experience around Europe, if he actually starts the season. And he is a really big counter-attacking threat. And I do think Mayenda and him have the potential to score a few goals this year. This is all about attacks, but we look short at centre-back and goalkeeper as the main issue right now. I actually think we're probably done with our forward recruits, to be totally honest. I think we might sign a more sort of destroyer-type midfielder, because Diarra and Siddiqui and JaackMaate, it's not really their game. But then last year, Joe Bellingham and Dan Neil, neither of which are destroyers. It might just not be what Lebris wants to do. I think we need Lefebvre to have a really good season. He is kind of the guile in that attack. And Chris Rigg was brilliant for Sunderland, but is still so young. It's a big ask for him to instantly make it to Premier League level. Again, Patrick Roberts, I'm not surprised that we've looked to bring in Talby. Again, there's question marks about whether he can make an impact at Premier League level as well. There are so many unknowns about this attack, but there are some really exciting pieces. But it's going to be, on the basis of our recruitment so far, it's going to be our attack that almost saves us. Because I do think that's a really strong bench and we can change games as well. And Romain Mundel, before he got injured last year, which led to the introduction of Tommy Watson towards the back end of the campaign, was brilliant. So I've got high hopes for him as well. Let's see, James. Let's see.
Yeah,
right now, I'm saying for where we're at, I think it's good. For a newly promoted side that finished fourth in the Championship, a distant fourth in the Championship last year, that scraped into the Premier League, I'm really pretty happy with that with just under a month to go.
Yeah. And get it done early as well. I think it's fair enough. Again, when it comes to this, it's about expectations. So
it's all relative.
And so I think I'm okay with good. I think the optimism that's there is there for a reason. So, live in that world. Tottenham, Mohamed Kudus, Kulusevski, Mattis Tell, Dominic Solanke. Other options, Brennan Johnson, Wilson Odobert, James Maddison, Timo Werner. Could leave the club, Heung-min Son. Mikey Moore, I'm intrigued to see if he gets a loan. If he does get a loan, I think it's a Premier League loan. I don't think I'd be amazed. I don't know. I'd be come to QPR. God, that would just be incredible if you could do that. Anyway, sorry. The main attack, Kudus, Kulusevski, Mattis Tell and Solanke. That is pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because we are driven by results and league positions. And so with Tottenham, you're sort of caught between what they were the season before that, what was so weird last season, and then whatever the truth is. But there's a lot of, in terms of other options. One's got 17 goals for you last year. One's Odegaard, who I quite like. One's Richarlison, who's cost a lot of money over the years. One's Timo Werner, and one's James Maddison. In terms of not that starting 4 for an attack. So I think that looks pretty healthy to me.
Goals were not the issue last year. I mean, they only ended up scoring 5 fewer than Arsenal. It really wasn't. It was about the balance of the team. It was about how
Just defensively.
It was kind of lack of effort at points in the Premier League, to be totally honest, as well.
Yep.
They really did throw in the towel.
Yeah.
But I think I'll be interested to know who their Gibbs White alternative is as well. Like, surely they're not done there as well. He clearly wants to bring in more profiles, particularly that he knows that know the Premier League as well. João Palhinha looks like the player that's going to be brought in defensive midfield. I think that's exciting. He was not good at Bayern Munich last year, but it's a very difficult club to join if you're not really a ball player. So
it's quite a Norgardy sign.
Yeah, exactly. It feels quite Thomas Frank. I'm excited to see how Spurs go. I think they'll be much improved. I think the mood around the club will quickly get better. And I like a lot of their midfield profiles as well. In terms of where their attack is, it's really deep. I think we talked about it in the last podcast. You want to see Tell, you want to see Brennan Johnson, you want to see Odegaard really start to step up now. Johnson's got a great goal-scoring record, but does he affect games enough throughout? I'm not so sure. But for where it's at right now, I'd say it's good.
Yeah. I think it's, I don't know, maybe I'm a Tell fan. So I kind of feel like I'm getting close. I mean, I guess it's who are Tottenham? That's the question. Who are Tottenham? Like, are we comparing them with Arsenal, Chelsea, or are we comparing them with Villa and Newcastle?
I think Villa and Newcastle for next year. I think getting back into the top 6 would be a great result. And I think they could do it. And
it's close to elite in that band.
Yeah.
If they're in that band, it's close to elite. But we'll put good, just to kind of, in case, I don't know. Right. Where are we? We
West
are
Ham.
on to West Ham. Wow. Somerville, Paquetá, Jarrod Bowen, Nicholas Füllkrug. Other options: Guilherme or Guilherme, and Maxwell Cornet. Remember him?
Throwback.
Yeah. Your best player, well, apart from Jarrod Bowen, Kudus has gone. I look at that. I was having a look at the squad there, and yeah, those forward options. Oof. Apparently they're linked with Callum Wilson. They absolutely need someone like that. Or they need depth. They need, because Füllkrug was injured all last season. I actually quite like Füllkrug, and they bought him for a reason. Like, he's a very clever striker, but obviously, couldn't keep himself fit last season. New burden on Somerville out wide to really be what you're sort of hoping he can be, because you haven't got Kudus to sort of save him when it comes to that output. Paquetá,
not consistent enough.
Who knows what's going on there? Jarrod Bowen will never let you down. But is he in the best position that he needs to be? Like, is the rest of the team sorted out? I'm not worried about Jarrod Bowen. It's nearly solid, but the depth, there's a lack of depth.
Yeah, I'd have it at a week, to be honest. Definitely in terms of depth. Definitely in terms of where West Ham want to be.
Yeah.
This is a club that felt upwardly mobile a few years ago, that signed Lopetegui, which wasn't particularly inspiring, but brought in Graham Potter, and everyone thought that's a really good managerial appointment for West Ham at that level, and it just hasn't worked out so far. I don't think the mood around the club is particularly positive right now. They need more players.
Yeah, simple as that. And then Wolves, John Arias. we did a lot of analysis on him.
Do we like John Arias?
Fluminense. Yes, we do. He kicks the ball really funny. He, instead of a Beckham whip, he sort of leans back. So if you imagine a Pirlo free kick where they bend like that, he bends like that.
Right.
Really odd. But it worked. It worked for him. He was a real live wire for them. The end quality wasn't always there, but he was a really fun, exciting player. That did seem to, you couldn't keep your eyes off him, and he did affect the game. So that's good. And I get to think of Cunha maybe having that freedom last year. Maybe if he's coming in, he might get that same freedom. Good, honest player as well. Fer Lopez, we've spoken about. He's good, but is he good? Bit of a spoiler there. And Strand Larsen comes in as well. And then, is this the year Fabio Silva comes to town? Hwang Hee-chan. You've got Bellegarde, Munetsi, Guedes as well. Sarabia has left the club. Cunha's left the club. Chiquinho has left the club as well. You've lost your best guy. You've kept your striker. You've brought in a guy from Brazil, like a very high profile player, but yeah, I'm a bit nervous about this. This feels like light and kind of a bit low on star quality.
I'd agree. I wonder what has happened to Hwang Hee-chan.
Do you know what? I saw him. I can't remember. I think it was a Champions League game against. It might even been Liverpool, and he came on
when he's for Salzburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oof.
Yeah.
I like you. And then he came in and he had a little purple patch, didn't he? Everyone put him in their
Had a few
FPL
months.
team. And then, he just sort of disappeared a bit.
I don't know what's happened there. It feels like he's out of favour for whatever reason. They need a big campaign from Strand Larsen. And I do think he was really impressive last year. He had a great record at Celta Vigo before he arrived, particularly in the bigger games. And towards the end of the season, and in that period where Cunha was often suspended, I thought he really stepped up as well. I thought Marshall Monetzi was a really good addition from January as well. Jean-Ric Bellegarde can occasionally get things going, but it feels quite light on guarantees. I would describe it as...
It's weak or firing blanks.
It's weak or firing blanks. And I don't know, how many have we had in firing blanks? Do we have to have another one?
We've got 4.
Okay.
We've got 3 in week.
I think maybe it's weak then.
Okay, we'll be kind. Just for symmetry. We'll put them in week. Yeah. Strand Larsen, there's goals there, right? Are they going to get it on the plate for him? That Norwegian plate. And that brings to an end another stunning tier list. Doogie's got a YouTube channel. Have I told you that? There's a link in the description. Go subscribe to him. Go listen and watch all his videos. Make sure you don't skip the ads. Let's all look after each other. Speaking of which, if you wouldn't mind following this podcast, if you enjoyed it, that would be super, super helpful. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we will speak to you very soon.